Ladies and gentlemen, hello, welcome back. It's time for the Pro League. I'm here with my best friend in the whole world, the beautiful Maven from Santa Monica. Maven.
How are you, pal?
We're going to go Game 5, Round 11, 4 times tonight. And it's all starting with Epsilon, who still is without a win, but they took denial to Game 5. Do they have any chance of doing it tonight against FaZe?
I'm picking them until they win. I had them against denial. I was having a heart attack in that game. Jack and I casted 2 best-of-5s. I think we had 3 Game 11s in S&Ds.
Yep.
It was a wild Friday. But do they have a chance? Yes. You know, I picked them. Epsilon's taking it Game 5. They're winning their first Game 5 of Season 3 their first game.
I love your picks throughout this season. You're just going all-out Epsilon. I saw a little preview of what Maven was looking to do throughout this week pick-wise. Yeah. Say he's an Epsilon fan. What made you such a fan of Epsilon throughout this week, Maven?
You know, like when you were in high school and you had that friend that got picked on and beat on a lot and just couldn't really get anything going in life, and you were the person that was there to help them rise above. That is what I am for Epsilon. They haven't got a win yet. They're demoralized. I may be their last fan, but I'm here for them.
Now, another team we're going to watch is TK. Now, all of us went Envy. The second match of the night, as we take a look at our schedule, you'll see TK takes on Envy here, and they went Game 5 against TCM. Did you see a stronger TK than what you and I were casting earlier last week? They barely beat Rise, even though Rise was playing down a man for 2 games.
Oh yeah, they look solid. A lot of that series came down to me. Moose had some struggles in respawn, but TK overall was stepping it up. I remember the game 1 hard point. I think at one point they were outslaying them. I want to say it was Biolab, but I'm trying to remember what it was. But they were outslaying them by like 30 to 40. Every player massively positive. That's been the big struggle for them. We talked about the other week. Like all of them range between what 0.74 and 0.8 something KDs and respawn. None of them really able to get going. They
above a 1 point. Yeah, it was pretty sloppy last week looking at the statistics. Yeah. Envy, on the other hand, I mean, they fell short to Orbit. They kind of choked in that series. They had the lead against FaZe on the night you and I casted. I think Envy still has shown more, I guess, a higher skill ceiling up to this point. But not a great week for them in Week 3. Week 4, they're looking to start off strong. Their only win last week was against Isolation. That was a 3-0 on Friday. Team Orbit, though, the big news just coming through. They play Elevate tonight. All of us picked Elevate, but that was before we saw TCM move over to this Orbit lineup. Is this a stronger or weaker squad with TCM instead of Burns? Young Maven, you still with me?
Internet connection problem. I think I'm back.
You're back.
I can hear you again.
Perfect.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So
I think it cut out on my end. But if you tossed me a question there, 100% did not hear it.
All right, here's the question one more time. Sorry about the internet connection. Team Orbit, big move today. They're picking up TCM in exchange for Burns, who went over to Rise Nation. Is this a stronger or weaker Orbit, and does it affect your pick for Elevate at all?
I wouldn't say it affects my pick at all. I guess I'm surprised to hear. This is my first hearing about it, so that's interesting. I think for the most part, Burns, at least thinking back to relegation, he played really well on LAN for them. He's had some really strong performances on line too, despite the fact that his host has been banned, I think, every single series he's done with Orbit. Yeah. Burns has not had the option to host, which makes it a little more difficult. I do like TCM a lot as a player. I don't think it really changes my pick. I think a lot more would have to happen for Rise or Orbit to, I guess, jump up my rankings kind of. But I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. I don't think it'll be a big shift for either team, really.
I think it's going to be interesting to watch. I'm honestly excited to see Burns over on Rise. I think it actually makes Rise a stronger team overall. Playing alongside Apathy, they could get a lot done in the sub front. Isolation versus Optic Nation. This is the one that I was most unsure about. But ISO, it seemed like after losing Llama God, they just haven't found their form. They brought on Parasite for a little bit. That didn't work out. At the end of the day, they released him 4 days after he was brought on. Isolation now in our bottom 4. Let's take a look at the overall standings. There's a big difference from where Optic Nation and Isolation sit. And Optic Nation, I think all of us were thinking, okay, maybe this was just a fluke to the start of their season, but they've kept it going. They're currently in 4th place at 4-2. Maven, what do you think in this matchup, ISO versus ON?
I took ISO because, you know, I just want to go against the mold, apparently. But it's going to be very tough for ISO. The way Mochilla's been playing, specifically in S&D, he's up there. I mean, with him, Havoc, that's going to be the battle. They're two of the best S&D players in the game. I have them both. I mean, I can't think of a better S&D player right now in my mind other than really Havoc and Mochilla, the way they've been playing recently online. That'll be the battle for me, how those S&Ds play out. I think the edge is Optic Nation and Respawn, so ISO absolutely going to be having to take those S&Ds.
Optic Nation 3-0'd Rise Nation last week, a 6-2 in Search and Destroy. Embo's dropping 13 kills on that one. Then you saw Game 3 was probably the closest 10-8 victory there. Moch topping the leaderboard, as you discussed. I don't know what to expect when we look at this matchup. I think it could be a really good one. I hope ISO puts up a fight, though, because they look so strong in relegation. They won that tournament there. They came in with a lot of hype in the first 2 weeks, and then it's kind of fallen off despite their top 8 finish at UMG Dallas. This is a must-needed win. Let's look at our overall stats one more time there at the bottom 6 teams. Who is in most danger outside of Epsilon in your eyes right now, Maven? Epsilon, of course, 0-6. You got Rise Nation 1-5. ISO's at 2-4 with a few other teams with just 2 wins. Elevate and TCM are also on that list.
As far as at risk, I mean, honestly, I think for the most part, I know people talk about online how there's a lot of variance from LAN, but right now it's shaking out pretty darn close to how we expected it. I don't see a major shift right now unless there's a big change in teams. I kind of think, except for Elevate. Elevate's the one team that I do not think is a 2-3 team. I believe they're much better than Orbit, TCM, Isolation, Rise, Epsilon, all those other teams. I think they're much better than TK. I think we'll see them bumping up the rankings a bit. Most at risk, though, other than Epsilon, probably the guys at the bottom. I'd say ISO and Rise, and then probably Orbit. If I had to pick 3 teams, I think most at risk other than Epsilon.
Okay. It's kind of crazy. I mean, TK's in your top 6 right now. They're sitting in 6th place with a 3-4 record. I agree, man. I think a lot of teams could jump up that leaderboard. I'm excited to see who's able to make the move. The first start is going to be Epsilon versus FaZe tonight. We'll see, can the upset be pulled off by Epsilon? If you were watching the show earlier, the boys took a look at Epsilon's road to their first win. Probably not going to happen tonight. They might have to wait a little bit later in this week to finally get it.
Well, it's Optic next, right?
Yeah, they're just not going to have a good time.
I was looking at it. I was going through my picks today. I woke up, I cast today. I come in a little late. It's already like 2 Eastern by the time I get to the office.
Right.
I'm looking at the email, and I'm like, all right, I'm taking Epsilon no matter what. I'm taking them all week. I go through the matchups. I'm like, seriously? FaZe and Optic this week? Like, get out of here. That's that's brutal when you're already 0-6. So you're that's tough.
So I'm looking through it. I mean, you got FaZe on Monday. On Wednesday, you got TCM. So maybe that's where you get your big win.
That'll be a really good series.
Optic Gaming, though, on Thursday. So even if you get your first win against TCM, probably going to have a bad time to close out the week. These poor Epsilon boys.
Well, and take a look at it. I mean, Chris, even though TCM's 2-3, I think if you talk about a team that could potentially pass maybe like an Optic Nation, pass an Envious, I certainly think as TCM comes together, they can. That's, in my eyes, I mean, really, they're looking at from a skill standpoint, maybe 3 of the top 6 teams. Rankings aren't everything. This is a tough week for sure for Epsilon.
I look at TCM, though, and I'm like, all right, so you beat Denial. You take Denial the distance. You somehow beat a Juggernaut squad. But then you lose to TK? Like, what's happening?
I'm trying to remember what all went down with the TK series, because I remember thinking, like, why are they losing this? Oh my God, I've been casting too much Call of Duty. They're all mixing together lately. But I remember I was surprised. The main thing is I've picked against TK. Like, TK wasn't winning any games.
Yeah.
I haven't picked TK at all because the first time I picked them, I remember they just looked abysmal. I was like, nope, I'm done for a while. TK fans, sorry, I'm not picking them. Ever since I stopped picking TK, they've won every match.
That's good. Sharp should start paying you to keep going no TK. When they're the underdogs, that's when TK performs the best.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at the maps for tonight. We got 5 of the players needed to kick off this matchup, but here's a look at the maps they'll be playing this evening. We're kicking things off with some Detroit Hardpoint. Riot Search and Destroy is game 2. Biolab Uplink game number 3. Retreat for Game 4. And then if it goes the distance, we will see a Game 5 search and destroy on Solar. I look at this first Detroit hardpoint, and I think this is your must-win map for Epsilon. You got to get your SMGs rolling early. Remy and Royalty need to have massive game number ones, because then I think you could even jump out to a 2-0 lead with a map like Riot for Game 2 to start things off and search and destroy. Anything could happen here for both squads.
It's possible, but Epsilon's looked... I casted a Riot for them the other day. They looked just abysmal. It was almost like they had a conversation. They're like, hey, let's stop playing slow in S&D. We're just going to fly everywhere. And they did that. They flew everywhere, but it got stomped. It looked not good. I think they lost like 6-2 or something like that in Riot. It was a very, very ugly game for them. The big thing that's scary for me in this one, they're hosting 2, 4, and 5. So you're already going up against FaZe's host in the first hardpoint, which is going to be tough enough to win. And then they're hosting the 4th game, which I think you said is Retreat hardpoint. Are you beating FaZe on Retreat hardpoint? I don't think so. That's going to be a very, very tough one to take, especially with the way Clay rocks the ball on that, the subs they have. I don't know if that's a map you can take off of them.
I don't see a good night for
I don't care. I took him, Chris.
But anything is possible. Uplink, I think that's a big one. Honestly, FaZe hasn't looked the strongest on BioLab Uplink throughout this season so far. Epsilon, you have some really talented players there. Nagafen and Remy, really strong uplink players on BioLab. Nagafen, one of the best at just keeping people off that drone all game long and just kind of being that nuisance out in the middle of snow. I don't know. I think you need a hot start here if you're Epsilon if you beat FaZe, though, because this is a team that loves to 3-0 and 3-1 people. Very rarely do you see FaZe behind and take it to a Game 5.
Yeah, that's the opposite of what we've seen really coming through here for Epsilon. They've had, what, is it 4 Game 5s now that they've lost? 3, 4? They can't close out a Game 5. So, been a struggle city for them when it comes to that.
All right, so we got our first matchup just a few moments away. We're going to see TK versus Envy as our second matchup. This one again should be Envy, but anything could happen. They lost to TCM in a Game 5 last week. Orbit versus Elevate. All 4 of us went for Elevate. I'm not giving up on this team. This is a team that I still feel like belongs in our top 5, ahead of Optic Nation. Potentially ahead of a few other squads, but how well are they going to be playing? TJ back on the roster. Big pickup there. Orbit with some fresh blood in TCM, but he had a whole lot of internet connection issues last week. Hopefully he is good to go tonight. And then finally, ISO Optic Nation. You got to think ON is the favorite here. You're the lone ISO man. You're a brave man, Maven. I am. You know, I had some choice words to say for you and the other casters via Twitter. And I apologize. Not really at all. Are you still in the lobby, by the way? I am not. It looks like lobby closed.
All right, just making sure that obviously my internet's been a little inconsistent the past 5 minutes. Just want to make sure I wasn't the only one out, but looks like I'm getting back in.
Yeah, and Clayster's hosting this Game 1. So FaZe taking your Detroit hardpoint host. A little bit nervous, Epsilon, I'm not going to lie. You got this, though, Swatty. Do it for Maven.
Please.
Do it for the big brother.
I was getting so excited. Like, I don't know if you were watching Jack and I cast, but the Game 5, I wasn't the most professional. I ripped off my headset, I threw it on the desk, and I walked out of the room. I was so upset that they lost their 4th Game 5, Chris. They just can't. That's all. You realize they're 0-6. They could very easily, by very easily I mean winning Game 5s, be 4-2. That's just absurd to think about. It's 4 games separating them from being 0-6 and 4-2. 4 maps.
Is there search in Game 2's week, or is it just when the pressure's on?
I couldn't tell you what the issue's been. I mean, I want to say it goes back to communication. They talked about it. On land, the communication was average. Online, it's going to be even worse. When it comes down to those clutch moments when you really have to come up big in a Game 5, what's really more important than communication and in-game leader? I mean, that's really everything. So I got to think that's the biggest reason they're struggling right now.
Yeah, I was looking through kind of their win-loss records. 2-3 overall in search, it looks like. So not having the best of time in the first matchup. Second one, 0-3. It's tough. You can do this, Epsilon, though.
I have so much faith. Like, you have no idea what's going to happen. If they win Game 5,
no idea.
You're finding someone else to cast with the final 3 matches because I'm going to freak out.
You're going to freak out? Don't do that.
I'm going to lose it. I'm going to be so excited. One, I have them picked. 2, I consider Swanee basically as close as it can be to being a brother without actually being my brother. I love that man. And 3, I have the emotional capacity of a toddler. So I'm going to get very excited.
I like it. Guys, I am terrible at doing math. They are 3-7 overall in Search and Destroy. So out of the 10 games, they've won 3. 30% win rate in searches. That is atrocious. So game 2, probably not expected to win it, but if they could, it's a big story going in. FaZe, though, top team, man. They're doing damage in the 5Ks again, coming off some big money from last night. Will they be able to keep it rolling? It looks like all the players are in. I went over to broadcaster. We should be starting up here in just a few moments, guys. This is match number 1. Remember, we have 3 more tonight. One last time, here's a look at our standings and the schedule. You'll see Optic Gaming sitting atop is currently 6-0, I believe, looking absolutely incredible. 6-1 is Denial. Their one bump came last week to TCM. FaZe 4-2. Not off to as hot of a start as Optic and Denial, so this match, pretty big one for them. Create a little space between Optic Nation, potentially, and Envy still at their heels. Then in the bottom half, the teams that we're rooting for tonight, Epsilon desperately needs a win. Isolation desperately needs a win. You're going to see Elevate and Orbit, 2 teams also fighting to just break even. Who's going to get it? We'll have to find out. The games are starting right now. Let's go into the action as we head to Detroit. Maven, we're starting with Epsilon. We're cheering for the boys all night long. Who's your player to watch?
Remy. I think Remy's he was one of my, I guess, favorite and most consistent players over that couple months period, especially around champs. I think he's been one of the more inconsistent players lately. Yeah. Remy and Royalty as well. Royalty's been really up and down. They just have to get it together, have to be performing in every respawn. Game 1 should be pretty telling for this one, but I'm getting fired up. I'm gonna be screaming. I'm gonna be chanting Swanee mid-series. Sorry, that's just gonna happen.
Swanee. Do you do it as a deep chant, like in a Swanee voice?
Swanee.
Or is that high-pitched 13-year-old girl?
I can't do the Swanee voice. He sounds like a British lion.
Over to Remy, though, to open things up. You said this is the player to watch, one of the top SMGs on this squad. Remy focused mostly on the objective. You'll see Royalty kind of their SMG slayer. Remy is going to be holding the hills, and right away, Royalty and Nagafen open up with the first 2 kills, and this is the first 10 seconds in favor of this Epsilon lineup.
That's going to be 3 down in succession there for Epsilon. Should provide a little bit of time here for FaZe. They're going to get in. And, you know, I've been so happy for this FaZe team, too. I hate rooting against them, because when we talk about it, I mean, the guys that I came into this scene really knowing, you know, I came into COD late. I was friends with Formal and Enable. I knew them from the Halo days. It's been fantastic to see. I mean, the rise of Formal happened so quick. I felt like it was 2 months, and all of a sudden he's a top player. Enable, it's taken a little bit longer, but now he's right up there, and it's been a pleasure to watch this FaZe team perform. Absolutely.
Remy back in the hard point. Want to give credit to Swanee for helping him get there. Had a nice string of kills. He's currently 6-2 to open things up. Best in the lobby. On the other side, it looks like Zuma is going to be currently 4-3, holding down the spawns for his squad as it is rotated to our second hard point. This is where FaZe should be able to mount up some time. As I say that, those 3 straight kills in the feed from Epsilon. Attached last man standing, trying to push in on all 4 members. Epsilon has total control.
And they're rolling right now, and that's what they need in my eyes. The most dangerous player probably in the entire Season 3 league lately has been Zuma. I think he leads the way in highest kills. I think he had 53 the other night when I was casting.
Yep.
He's been crushing everything that moves. You're just praying for like an average series out of him if you're Epsilon right now. If he plays the way he has been lately, this team is so hard to beat.
Now, FaZe just cleared out Epsilon, but then you saw 4 straight kills coming in for Epsilon. So these are some big blows coming in. Epsilon doing the damage early on. They're the first one to reach 60 points, and it only took them 2 minutes. So basically half the time possible, they have already put up on the scoreboard. and this is a fantastic start. The question is, will they be able to hold it? All of FaZe inside the hard point first. We're staying on board with Remy as he is rotating around the map, currently just on a 1 streak. He's got Nagafen working with him, and here comes the break. Everyone cleared out of the garage. Epsilon is just sweeping FaZe out of the hills whenever they please.
Yeah, that was Nagafen that came over the back wall and just waited really patiently for the help to get there, and they broke that perfectly together with a bit of a pinch. But just like that, you see Zuma fly in, gets an easy 2-piece, cleans it up, they clear it out. Now FaZe back in control. Right now, about a 30-point advantage. Royalty and Swanee able to bust in, just trying to take control. Attach and Zuma still going to be able to hold them off there inside a parking garage. And this one, I mean, no one's been able to really get a ton of time. I think it's about 15 points for either team. A lot of it's been contested, Chris.
Solid stuff so far. You're going to see Remy rotating early to the next hard point. It's going to be Nagafen holding on every last second. Let's go on board with Remy as he tries to cut across. That's not going to happen. New fight was between Royalty. He loses that. Attach inside first. Will set up for FaZe, and he's going to be attacked from all different directions. Defends himself once, calling out for help. It's Clayster still alive. As I say, everyone dropping for FaZe until Zuma picks up the kill on Royalty. Looks like FaZe is going to be able to maintain control for at least a moment. Enable trying to clear the mid street, but this is 4 straight pushes from Epsilon. Everyone surging forward.
They're trying to fly in and break this. FaZe still has control, but they've got 3 people to bust through now. They're all coming through that front door and window. Attach picks up 2. Clayster, they're able to clean up the final one, and they're going to get shut down. Really only 1 more player to challenge, but I think they'll be able to slow that down for now. And this with 15 seconds left, you make 1 last push, and then you got to rotate. You can't keep wasting time here. FaZe has had this pretty much on lock. But despite that, still going to be a small advantage right now. And actually, it's going to end up being, what, that final 12 seconds of trash time they might be able to get?
Yeah.
Gunfight win there for Nagafen. They're going to get all that. So actually, that worked out decently at the end there for Epsilon.
Closest this game has been is 5 points, and that has always been in favor of Epsilon. I haven't seen FaZe take the lead on your scoreboard. Nagafen failing to get in, but already Remy is in this school. He worked with Swanee to clear things out. Epsilon is rolling here early in hardpoint. A little bit of a lag spike, it looks like, for the players, and FaZe will break through. Zuma leading the charge. Just 12 and 13 has been pretty much shut down in this game up to this point.
And that's what they need. I mean, he's been the one that's so deadly. I feel like every respawn I've casted of him lately, it's just going off for 40+ every single game I've done with him. This one, just a little bit slow. We're about, what you said, the halfway point. Yeah, he's on pace for 26 and 28 right now. That's not a game I've seen out of Zuma in quite some time.
And I'm looking through. You got Attach at 20 and 15, the lone bright spot of this FaZe squad. Everyone else massively negative. You got Enable, -6. -4 is Clayster. -2 from Zuma. Attach, +6 and continues to roll. Can he keep it up?
121, 105 right now. We're going to be working through the second side of rotations. And this is one, this middle hard point, you can't allow FaZe to get a bunch of time here. This is supposed to be the back and forth hard point, not really soaking up much. The first 20 or so seconds have gone to FaZe. They haven't been able to break in. Swanee's just been putting shots in here from school steps. He hasn't really been able to pick anything up, and he's finally got to push forward because the rest of his teammates die. The last thing you want is your bow player having to fly into the Central Atlas. But I can't believe there's a lead change right now. 30. They might get the entire 60 in the center hard point.
Yeah, Attach caught fire there on a 5 straight. You saw kills out of Zuma and Clay. Everything going well, and Enable fighting for his life here. Finally forced out, but still not dead. Gonna jump right back in. Continues to pick up time. 2 down for Epsilon as we're coming down to the last 5 seconds. They try and fight for scrap time. FaZe with the lead, starting to pull away though, and Clayster has caught fire. 4 streak there before he dies. Over to Attach. First to set up in the new hard point, and he's got a bow.
Well, if the game goes to FaZe, you can talk about the past 60 seconds. They got destroyed. Epsilon got destroyed that central hard point, and they lost the rotation battle the next one. Thankfully, they were able to break that very, very quickly. And now they've got to soak up some time. That was just an embarrassing result there on the first hard point, but now trying here in the second phase, they're able to fight back in. Zuma wins a gunfight, takes some shots from behind, and he's trying to clean up players fighting in. That's a nice 2-piece for Royalty as they're able to bust through, Chris.
And everyone dies again from FaZe. I just cycled through all 4 players getting shut down by Epsilon. You saw it in the kill feed. It was all blue for a moment. Epsilon still fighting for control. They should be able to retake it here. 12 seconds left. No one's really contesting Swanee until this fight. One-on-one here gives them 10 seconds, but that's a big win for Attach. Attach getting challenged, though. Epsilon not giving up any free points. The fight, though, that really matters is about to happen in the back. Royalty just lost it as Clayster sets up with the bow.
The subs going huge for either team right now. The first hard point, Attach had a nice streak that really led to a lot of points. On the second one, it was Royalty, I believe, going on a 5 streak. A couple nice 2 pieces around the hard point as he was able to help Epsilon battle back in. But with 2.5 left in such a tight game, and the, I guess, unclutched performances of Epsilon lately, you got to think this is one that favors FaZe right now. They're going to be the team, I think, that's going to be a little favored when it comes to being able to close out games, but we'll see how it plays out. Their lead keeps increasing right now. 20-point advantage with 2:20 left on the clock. Everyone on FaZe seems to be coming alive at the right time.
Attach was able to just sit in the back, didn't see anyone pushing mid-street, so all of Epsilon trying to force their way through the same window, and that did not work. You can see the scoreboard, 23 points in favor of FaZe. That lead starting to get cut down, but this is scrap time. It's all coming down to the last 2 hard points. Here's the rotation. Currently watching Zuma, and just look where he's set up on the flank. Zuma is going to be coming from the opposite direction. At least that was the goal. Gives his team the spawns. And it looks like Epsilon's ready. Remy, 2 teammates down, though, needs these big kills. Here comes Attach flying through. Swanee's there to save the day for the moment, but he's going to get dropped. Royalty fighting out front. Remy fighting on the mid-street, and Remy's going to lose his fight. Royalty cut down. FaZe should be able to close this out if they continue to hold. So far, very impressive performance. Every time they need to get that last kill, they're winning that battle.
Yeah, and the lead just it keeps increasing. It's little by little, but it's starting to blow up a little bit. 30-point advantage with 60 seconds left, and FaZe seems to be coming alive in the hard points that matter. Attach getting pushed, finally going to get taken out by Royalty. 14 seconds left until they're going to rotate, and this is going to be really, really tough, especially since it looks like the scrap time is going to be going to FaZe.
Clayster's winning some up-close fights with the bow as well. I feel like he should not be winning. You see your final 50 seconds. Anything could happen here, but it needs to happen right away for Epsilon. They have no time for contest here. Only, I think, a 5-point margin if it gets sloppy. And you're going to see the push. Swanee trying to hold the front door. Nagafen going to help from the wall, but Remy gets dropped, so no more scoring happening here from Epsilon. FaZe has just locked it up. 30 seconds left. Attach is going to go for the 40 bomb. He's 4 kills away to go along with his 11 captures. He was the bright light in the first half, and on the second side, he did not slow down. Definitely the key player for the squad, but Clayster turning it on. Side number 2 is going to finish with a 41st. It looks like he's hunting for that kill right now.
Yep, that was Clay and Attach really going big, especially. I mean, for me, it all started with the first hard point on the second side. Attach went on that streak.
Yep.
They went from being down, I think, 15 to plus 15, something in that ballpark. They even won the rotation battle into the second hard point, and from then it was just 5 points here, 10 points there, just gaining the lead little by little.
244.
Good job by FaZe. They're a team you expect to close it out. Epsilon not yet proving to be a team that can do it.
Man, what was Epsilon up at the half?
Not much. I think it was like 15. They never had too big of a lead. I think the most they led was probably 30 or so early. I think it was like a 50 to 20 game off the break. But honestly, I mean, 50 to 20 doesn't even really matter at that point. It's so early. For me, it's kind of that halfway point where you really start to get the shape of things.
Hardpoint 6, the game changer, as you mentioned. FaZe locks it up. So game 1 in the books. Now you got to win a search and destroy. You got a 30% win rate on this game type. We'll find out.
You can do it.
Can Epsilon pull off the improbable? Improbable? After this.